was now a coach somewhere in Long Beach, teaching those kids how to field nowadays. My coach, Coach Birdie, I remember them telling us, he was this tall guy, no hair, always wore shades, and he looked like he had a pissed-off face to him always. We won our first game, and as a way of team building, he took us all to Shakey's Pizza, if anyone remembers that place anymore. We all had fun there. We were all drinking soda, refill after refill after refill. Metabolism. Key word to remember when you're 16, and you could drink all the soda that you want, not realizing that your baby teeth had been gone for some time now, and that all you were doing was taking the acid thing away from your teeth when drinking soda. Funny memory, huh? The buses lined up, all in one row. Me and Romero were on bus 2 from what one of the teachers said when he called out our names. Aguilar, Hector were on bus 1. I told them after we had come back in the morning to meet up right here in the same spot so I could give them all the ride home in the parking lot. Sitting in our seats, staring at that big foam rubber from the seat in front of you, I looked at Romero. He looked back at me. He was quiet. This being something that he never was when he was around people. I asked him after a few minutes of dead silence if anything was wrong. "Where are the fat girls?" Romero's mouth blurted out. Marisol and her cousin, you referring about. I looked up from our seats to see if they had gotten on our bus. They were not on our bus. Like passing notes during class, I asked the person in front of me, and then they asked the person in front of them, followed by so forth, followed by etc., until my friend, who I had 5th period history class with in the 9th grade, Lucina, standing up from her seat, shouting back to me that Marisol was not on our bus, seeming sour about it when telling me. My fault, though. That ended that. The bus started to drive off from the school. Everyone took a nap, it seemed, as the bus was dark, minus the noise of hearing people kissing. The drive took 35 minutes for us to reach Disneyland. Everyone in awe when the bus pulled into the parking lot. We all saw nothing but school buses from all the districts in Los Angeles that were here tonight for all the kids who had been 18 years old, some 17 due to being smart and graduating early, or just because their birthday had fallen on a summer month. I always thought of how nobody thinks back to where when you were 5 years old and your parent had to make the decision if you were to go to kindergarten or wait the extra year. None of this were thinking of that until we were seniors and talking about how one's parents decided to hold their kid back 1 year, just so they could wait, thus ensuring if all was well, their kids would be 18 coming into their senior year, rather than becoming 17 coming into their senior year. It never mattered anyways. It was just a good conversation to pass the time about. Before getting off the bus driver reminded us that our bus number was 425. And he told us if we had forgotten this by the time it was 6 a.m. when the retreat bell was sounded from the park, we would be left at the Disneyland parking lot, waiting for our parents to pick us up. Everyone emptying the buses, everyone had this look of amazement from one another. This look, thinking to ourselves, we have the park all to ourselves. Made me think next of why I did not have a girlfriend, where if I did, the both of us would have been walking hand in hand all night, riding all the rides, probably even making out here and there. Oh yeah, I remember now why I did not have a girlfriend for tonight. My friends made me break up with her 4 months ago because they all mocked me for dating Jabba the Hutt. Well, that is what they had called her. Another story for another time, as I said before. "Barry! Barry!" a voice yells out to me. It was Marisol, saying to myself. Among the crowds of young adults here, I get to spot her out, my eyes quickly noticing she had on some dress that looked like one of those pre-moo-moos that old people wear when they were too lazy to wear anything. What made it worse now was that her cousin had matched her with the same outfit. As the two walked towards me and Romero, when Romero noticed this, he looked at me saying, "Tweedledee and Tweedledum." Myself, I had to smirk because it was kind of funny, and yet I wondered, why did they have to wear the same type of clothing tonight? I was hoping that her cousin was skinnier than Marisol, but that was not the case. Romero had reminded me that with family gatherings, if one was fat, then that was a reminder that more of the family from cousins, brothers, or sisters were fat as well. Kind of messed up, saying to myself. "This is my cousin Ari, short for Ariana," Marisol introduced us. "I did not know we were allowed to bring one guest if we had wanted to," Romero said, chiming in. "When we went into the office to sign up for the trip, Ari was with me, and the school receptionist asked me if Ari was my plus one." That made sense to me, saying to them all. In the back of my mind, I thought I should have asked Eloise to join me, but I think she would not be able to because she was always closing the sandwich shop. The four of us walked to the front of the park to get in line before the park opened for all of us. This was the part where I realized the Tweedledee and Tweedledum comments began. The closer and closer we got to the entrance, people around us were laughing, snickering, people basically talking shit behind our backs. Not my back, not Romero's back. They were clearly talking shit about Marisol and Ariana. The funny thing about this, though, not once, as I remember now, not once did them two ever notice it. Behind all the snickering, behind every comment someone had said while we were waiting in line for the rides, not once did Marisol or Ariana ever feel weird or upset about people talking shit about them behind their backs. I think back now, maybe these two women were just one of those people who did not listen to the background noise. Something I realize now we should all do when trying to ignore someone trying to put you down for no reason. During the whole grad night at Disneyland, I never once asked them to on why they decide to wear matching outfits. The question just never came up, I remember. What I do remember now, clearly and visibly, was when Romero ditched me when we were in line for Splash Mountain. To set this scene, everything up to now was fine. From all the other times when my parents, my friends had taken me to Disneyland, the motto was always when you walked into the park, the first thing you did was head to the right, where Tomorrowland had started at, working your way through the Star Wars ride, followed by the Matterhorn ride, followed by some other little rides that I can't remember at the moment. Since tonight had all the young adults crowding every ride, we started at Star Tours, skipping next to the Matterhorn, followed by taking a detour through Toontown, because they had that Roger Rabbit ride that was new. Nobody had the internet yet on their smartphones to tell you that Disneyland had a new ride. Everything was word of mouth back then. The next ride we had gotten to was the Indiana Jones ride, which back then was still almost 2 hours of waiting until you rode that ride. Even with fast passes nowadays, the ride was still a long wait. Everyone agreed, though, once you had ridden it, you were a satisfied customer, never ever complaining about the ride. You just brought it up in conversations when talking to people who had rode that ride. Everyone would bring up the long wait that you had to endure, but everyone was satisfied after ride anyways. After the ride, the four of us walking, Romero bumped into one of his ex-girlfriend's friend, Patricia. Romero introducing her to the three of us, we all shook her hand next. Romero asking if we were okay. She walks with us, as she has said her group of friends were two couples paired up, her leaving feeling awkward. Romero immediately asking if one of the couples were Patricia, cutting him off from finishing that sentence. "You do not need to know. So, let us finish the night strong. Let us ride the rides, my friend," she said, holding Romero's hand as the five of us heading to our next ride, which was Splash Mountain. Splash Mountain opened up in 1989. I remember my stepdad so eagerly wanting to take us there when him and my mom had the money. We were off to Disneyland to ride the ride, but my sister did not want to go with us. She instead wanted to stay home. More on that later. While in line waiting, Marisol and Ariana talked about the colleges they wanted to look at, community college that is. Marisol was happy to go to a college close to home in her opinion. Ariana had no plans to go to college. She said she just wanted to enjoy a year without having to go to school. I did not chime in with an answer. I just listened. When I did listen, I had been listening to Romero and Patricia talking privately, 2 steps behind us three, while waiting in line for the ride. Their conversations were quiet. They may have been loud in some ways, but I think from all the other people talking the line, from their point of view, it was hard to make out what they were saying. One thing I did notice, though, was the two kept holding hands, playing with each other's fingers again and again. Next, I had been noticing that the two kept looking at each other, with that look as if they were a couple. My mind, next thinking, Romero, after this ride was over, was going to leave me with Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and go through the rest of the night with Patricia, leaving me hanging. The plan was I hoped he had not done this to me, but if I was in his situation, I too would have found some way of getting away from being the joke at every ride. As the five of us going through this line, people were having their sidebar conversations, making jokes at Marisol and Ari. This was the one thing that made me think too on how my school had people that would make fun of a couple women that had a few extra pounds on them. When going to my first pep rally when in the 9th grade, the cheerleaders that were prepping us during the event to be excited that in these 4 years, we would have a great time at this high school. When looking at the cheerleaders, I had realized that they were not the cheerleaders that I had always seen in the movies that I had watched late at night when recording movies for my stepdad, because he wrote on his TV guide whenever he got the new edition each week on what things he wanted me to record. They were always high school movies where the cheerleaders were always blonde, brunette. They were always skinny from what I remember. Our cheerleaders at my high school were not that. I remember years later at our 10-year reunion, the first thing someone had said in the bathroom while I was using it was on how the cheerleaders got bigger and bigger from 10 years ago. I did not know who said it because I was busy doing my thing in the bathroom stall, but I think that person was just mean when I overheard him saying this. Halfway through the line, still waiting to ride Splash Mountain, I noticed now Romero was talking into Patricia's ear about something. Oh no, I said to my thoughts. After this ride, he was going to ditch me, leaving me with Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Only saying the reference in my head, never meaning to say this as if I was encouraging the joke with everyone that had been making the joke about Marisol and Ariana around us. Did that make me a hypocrite as well? Saying to myself nowadays. Finally making our way into the log ride, packed with fellow graduating alumni. Each row able to hold 5 people, meaning if we were all the same size, in which tonight I knew that everyone was going to give us shit each time we boarded a ride. This ride was no exception. Marisol and Ariana got in first, followed by me, taking the corner as Ariana had been in the middle. Romero and Patricia did not even pay attention to the 3 of us when trying to get into the log ride. They moved over to the front of the ride, having the spot all to themselves. Myself hating them for having that luxury. The ride starting, all of us excited to ride Splash Mountain once again, as I was sure everyone here tonight was excited to ride the ride without being surrounded by their parents this time. After the first drop, I looked in front, stalking at Romero and Patricia. From the look of things, Patricia was leaning her head on Romero's shoulders. Shit, I said to myself, fearing the worst. Next, I was thinking of the code that we learned in high school, where the code was, if she breaks up with you,